Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of a WM32 football podcast. Once again, being joined by Nelson for today. And today's episode, we are going to be looking at the forgotten men within the Premier League. And both myself and Nelson, we are going to come up with our very own forgotten men 11s. So this is a little bit of a similar theme to what we've done previously with our underrated and overrated Premier League 11s. But this time we're just going to focus on those players that are still at clubs, but you pretty much forgot they were there. So it will work, as I said before, similar to our overrated and underrated 11s. And just a quick one before we start as well. We have hit 90 subscribers on our YouTube channel, so make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn the notification bell on so you know every time we post. We would love it if we could reach 100 subscribers as well. So if you are watching and you haven't subscribed as of yet, first of all, what are you doing with your life? And secondly, just make sure that you do hit that subscribe button. It would mean a lot to all of us at WM32 Football. And we hope that you like the content that we are producing, and get in touch if there is anything else that you would like us to cover, topic-wise as well. Right, Nelson, let's get started, shall we? Forgotten Men 11.
Yeah.
I know this has been a tough one, not only for you, but for us both, really. I think the transfer window may have killed us with a few selections here and there, because I think we had some players in our teams or in our thoughts, but then have all of a sudden got moves. So unfortunately do not qualify. But Nelson, just take us through your team, starting with your goalkeeper, any contenders, and let us know who you've gone with.
Yeah, I had some contenders to begin with. I had the likes of Scott Carson, who is still at Manchester City. Had no idea. Had Sergio Romero at Manchester United. I think he's still Argentina's number one, which baffles me. But yeah, and I also had Joan Ruddy. And I've ended up going with Joan Ruddy because I think we all know him at his time at Norwich when he was in the league, was number one. I think still he's 34 years of age. So I think the blessing in disguise for goalkeepers is that even over their 30s, there's still a chance for them to still play, at the highest level, because compared to other positions that demand a bit more, like your midfielders and your attackers, there's always a certain age range in terms of where your prime is. Whereas keepers, they have that longevity on their side. So I think Joan Ruddy's been a steady goalkeeper in the league for many years. It's just been weird that I found that he was on one of the Premier League squads, so that's why I've put him to start off my 11 in goal.
Not a bad shout, and as you mentioned there, obviously was a decent goalkeeper in his time at Norwich. Probably a rare breed in the Wolves squad because he's not Portuguese, or doesn't speak Portuguese. So yeah, like I say, probably a rare breed, but a fairly decent goalkeeper. No, for sure. Talk us through your back line and sort of formations that you've decided to go with.
Yeah, I'll go ahead. My formation is a 4-3-3 attacking. But my defense, I think if your side were to play my defense, I think they'd have an advantage right now, especially your attacking front line, which we'll obviously find out later. But I start off at right back. My right back is El Mohammadi at Aston Villa. I've now gone for him simply because I know he's made a couple of appearances in the last few games, and he sometimes comes in to deputise at right back. But I think because he was a mainstay in that Villa side in the Premier League, and then obviously they got knocked back down, came back up, he was a mainstay within that side. And I think last season he was playing a lot more games than he was this season. I think he brings a certain quality, just experience, I would say. I think that's the only thing he will sort of bring, that experience in the league. So I've gone for El Mohammadi because of that, that period in his career when he was a mainstay in that right back side. And I recently went through Aston Villa's squad to find that he was still there, which kind of proves kind of justifies why I think I've put in my squad. So I've gone for El Mohammadi at my right back. I'll move over to my centre back pairing. My first centre back is Callum Chambers at Arsenal. Callum Chambers at Arsenal is, I believe, a hugely forgotten man. We all know before coming back to Arsenal, before getting that really damaging injury to his knee, he was at Fulham, did well at Fulham, won Player of the Season, and was actually in a defensive midfield role compared to where I've put him at centre back. And he did really, really well there. But since he's come back at Arsenal, he had a few run of games when Unai Emery came and was in charge, but then got that gruesome injury and now has been out for pretty much over more than a year, hasn't played a lot. I think he made a comeback this season, which I was lucky enough to go to in the Europa League. He made his first appearance in over a year. But yeah, he's completely he's not even in the reserves, I think. I think at times he's played a couple under 23 games as well to kind of show that he's really fallen down the pecking order. And the crazy thing is, I think he's still 26 or 27. So he could still offer a lot to Premier League clubs that are on the other side, bottom half of the table, such as your Brighton, even your Fulhams. He could actually. I was surprised he didn't actually go back to Fulham and stay there permanently. And I think they could use someone like him right now in their squad because he does bring an extra kind of composure in that back line when he can play. But I've gone for Callum Chambers. He's my first centre back. My second centre back, I think we both considered him, but he's not in our squad. He's not in your squad, but he's in my squad, and that's Wes Morgan. I've gone for Wes Morgan, former title-winning captain of Leicester. And yeah, we all know what he was able to produce in that ridiculous I call it an odd blip season where Leicester went and won the title. But full credit to him and that squad at that time. I think he was still a mainstay a couple, 2-3 years after, but I think Leicester have obviously identified that they needed to bring in a young, fresh energy, and they've obviously got the likes of Johnny Evans and Soyuncu at the back now, who are providing that stability in Leicester's defence. But I think as well, I thought he had departed already before I checked Leicester's squad, but obviously found and came across that he was still there. So I think he's 39. So I think, 39. So he's reaching a stage where, I think now he should be looking for a move in the lower leagues. You know, he's been a good servant at Leicester. Obviously, the fans will remember him for what he's done. You know, bringing that Premier League title. So I've gone for Wes Morgan to partner Callum Chambers in my centre back. Now, my back line, as I said, I think your attacking front line might enjoy playing against my back line because mine's kind of lopsided in the sense that I haven't really gone for a natural left back, but I've gone for a person who can deputise at Andreas Christensen at Chelsea. I've gone for him because we all know that he was able to come into the side, and the crazy thing is, just like Callum Chambers, he's still got age on his side. I think he's 24, 25. And he was part of, obviously, that back three in Conte's side, winning title side, that went on that ridiculous run of form. And he was brilliant that season, I remember. But I think it's been unfortunate for him that, you know, different managers have come in. Obviously, Frank has come in before he got sacked and didn't really get a look in. Maybe had a few chances, but maybe didn't impress Frank, or maybe he wasn't the player profile that fitted Frank's philosophy at the time. You know, he was there at the club. I still think he can do a good job. I think other Premier League clubs, I'm surprised that other Premier League clubs haven't actually gone in for him to actually, you know, because he has that experience now. He's played, he was a part of a title-winning side, so bringing that experience to any Premier League club, I think, would be invaluable. But he fills out my back line, so he would be deputising for me at left back. So that's my back line, Wes. What do you think? What do you think?
Not bad, as you mentioned there, a little bit lopsided, but I think may have to just kind of get on with it. Really, Wes Morgan, interesting one. I think as you quite rightly said, Leicester have kind of identified other centre backs. You know, you mentioned Johnny Evans and Soyuncu. They've also got Little Wes, as he's called, Wesley Fofana, and Wes Morgan is Big Wes at Leicester. And I think a potential one that could have made our squads had he stayed at Leicester was Filip Benkovic. He was on loan at Cardiff earlier on in the season and then got recalled, and then I think was sent out on loan to Leicester's sister club out in Belgium, but had a really, really good loan spell working under Brendan Rodgers actually at Celtic not so long ago. But no, decent back four. Was there any other players defensive-wise that may have got the call up for you?
Looking at my squad list that I had before, drafting my final 11 out, the only person I can see is Phil Jagielka. He was another person that potentially could have made my squad. But if I had placed him in, let's say for El Mohammadi, I would have had an entire back line of centre backs. So I was like, no, I'm not doing that. So
the pace wouldn't have been as great in that back line. That is for sure.
No, probably an average pace of 10. But I think. Phil Jagielka was another person that I considered, but I ended up going with my back line. So I'm happy with it. Yeah.
Not bad.
What about your team?
We'll come on to my team, Nelson. Don't you worry. We're going to stick with yours to begin with. I'm going to tease you guys, and then I will reveal all hopefully fairly soon. So Nelson, you've picked your back five, if you like, goalkeeper and back four. You've mentioned you're going 4-3-3 attacking. Who were the three that have made the cut in that midfield?
So I'll start off with my two centre mids. One of them I think will shock many because I'll get onto him in a moment. But my first midfielder is Jack Rodwell, would you believe? Jack Rodwell, who is still at Sheffield United. I think he signed for them last summer or the season before, but I think it was last summer. And he's come in and I don't think he's gotten a game. Like, it's ridiculous to think that he was once, I wouldn't say he was tipped for greatness or anything, but when he came through at Everton, he was a young, refreshing lad in midfield, brought that energy. And I think the Everton fans really, really loved that type of player. And obviously, I think he was, I think he had in that midfield, I think they had Arteta at the time. I think he complemented and balanced the midfield that they had at the time. He obviously was at Sunderland as well. Had a brief spend, and I think when he made that move to City, everyone thought that was the next big step in his career. Well, he personally felt that, but it obviously didn't work out for him. And now we find him back at Sheffield United, and the fact that Chris Wilder hasn't really turned to him, for him to come on, like, I wouldn't say surprises me, but it's just I forgot that he was at Sheffield United. So the whole point of this is to put the forgotten men in there, and I think he certainly justifies why he's in that squad. So I've gone with Jack Rodwell. So his midfield partner is someone that, he's a baller in my eyes, in your eyes. And at the end of the day, like, I just can't believe that, like, I think there's an element of, I think that, okay, so my midfield partner for Jack Rodwell is none other than Donny van de Beek. Now, this is a sticky one, and I know people may feel as though, no, he's not forgotten. We still know him from, his Ajax days and stuff. But I think some people have actually forgotten that he's made the transfer to United because he's barely gotten any run of games to start under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. And every time he's come in, it's either been in, those forgotten matches in the Carabao Cup or the Europa League in the group stages where, I said Europa League. There's me thinking United in Europa League, but they obviously got knocked out of their Champions League group. He barely even got a sniff in that Champions League squad as well. And he's only come in and played, you could argue, garbage minutes, where United have won their games comfortably, and he's just come on to, get a run of games, increase his match fitness. And it's crazy to think that he made the move to United. I thought it was a stupid signing in the first place because they have enough attacking midfield talent as there is in Pogba, Bruno. I think Juan Mata's there still at the club. So, You've even got him too. So I put him in there simply because of the fact that he's not obviously not getting a look in, and I think some people have actually forgotten that he's made that transfer to United because, like, at times I was even playing FIFA the other day with my brother, and we wanted to play Ajax. He wanted to play Ajax at FIFA 21 and forgot that Van der Beek made the move to United. So, like, that just kind of shows that, wow, like, a lot can happen. And, you know, it's been 6 months since he's made that move, but a lot can happen for him to be forgotten. So I put Donny van de Beek there. I wanted to get your opinion on this because I know he's one of your favourite players, and I know you've looked at the Ajax side, especially the one that made that famous run to the Champions League semi-final, knocked out the likes of Juventus and Madrid. So give me your take on this little selection I've made.
Donny van de Beek has been a player that I have lauded for a good few years. You know, saw him in his time at Ajax and he was phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. Could play as a number 4 or a 6, you know, in terms of that holding midfield role. Could play as a number 8, that box to box. Could play as a number 10 as well. I think he's got a lot still going for him. And I was certainly hoping that Tottenham would sign him. And I think even now, looking at the way Tottenham play and set up, he'd still be perfect in the Tottenham team. Unfortunately, he didn't listen to Stevie Bergwijn, who was trying to get him over and went to Man United. And, you know, I think everybody at Ajax was sort of surprised that he made that move, as you mentioned, with the likes of Bruno and Pogba there as well. It was almost like, well, where's Van der Beek going to fit in? You know, we speak about, again, like Bruno and Pogba attacking wise, but also he could play deeper, but then he's got Fred, McTominay, Matic there. So it was always a case of, well, why have you made that move? Like, where are you going to fit in? So, but no, listen, I love Donny van der Beek. I think he's just got so much energy as well. And yeah, I think he is a quality player. And I hope that it works out for him over in England. And I hope that people get to see the qualities that he possesses. Like, you mentioned that Ajax side there, he was pivotal, absolutely pivotal for them. They played with a false 9 that year. But his energy to instigate a press when they didn't have the ball was fantastic, because Dusan Tadic was the main player that you would say that was more central and sort of the furthest up. Tadic is a bit more of a wider player, like number 10, with drifting off lines and things like that. So he doesn't necessarily have a lot of pace, Dusan Tadic, but it was kind of complemented very well by Van der Beek's energy. And yeah, I was absolutely gutted when he turned up at Old Trafford, because I would have loved him at Tottenham for sure. And he had a good song at Ajax as well, so we can't forget that side of things.
He did. I mean?
So
yeah.
Love Donny van der Beek. Please get him some minutes somewhere, because he deserves it.
Amen to that. So Donny van der Beek and Jack Rodwell are my 2 centre midfielders. I've gone for an attacking midfielder. Now, yeah, this brother is a guy that I think a lot of people have forgotten, because he came through the Chelsea academy and was tipped to even break into their first team squad at one point. But I think just because of his quality in general, like, everyone thought, you know, he would have a sustainable career, but it crazy hasn't worked out for him. And that's Charlie Musonda Jr. Like, this guy, as you already know, like you said, Football Manager darling. For me, he was a beauty to play with in FIFA Ultimate Team, because of his pace, because of his dribbling. Like, he would offer that directness, and yeah, he's a talent. I think he has the talent. I think we all know he's a talented footballer, but we all know that it takes more than that to succeed in this game today. And somehow he's still at Chelsea. I know that Chelsea, I'm very critical when it comes to the way they handle, you know, their academy products, their players. I watched a video recently where I had no idea. So basically, Lucas Piazon, as you know, has been at Chelsea for so long, and he came out recently with a video talking about, you know, how the Chelsea loan system or loan department kind of treats their players, or how Chelsea in general treat their academy players when they promise to give them, you know, a couple run in the first side, but don't end up doing it, end up sending them out on loan again and again and again. He was going to make my squad if he hadn't moved out, because he was also a forgotten man, and he said he had a really good time at Fulham, wanted to stay, but obviously I think Fulham and Chelsea's rivalry, I think, got in the way of him potentially getting a permanent transfer. Anyway, back to Musonda. Musonda is a very good baller. Like I said, he can play across that, you know, in a 4-2-3-1, he can play across that, you know, that midfield line, and he can play wide as well. So I really, really liked Musonda, and I think he would have been. I think he could offer something to a Premier League club right now. I think he just needs a run of games to get that going, some confidence to get that going. So I put Charlie Musonda as my attacking mid. I wanted to get your thoughts as well on Charlie Musonda, because I know I've put two people in the field that I think you like in general as a baller. So what's your opinion on Musonda, Wes?
Baller. Enough said, I think, on that. No, Charlie Musonda is just different class. Been really, really, really unlucky with injuries. I think he's had 3 serious injuries in consecutive years. And that is probably why he hasn't been able to showcase, you know, his talent and his ability. Completely agree with you in the sense he can play across that front line, can play as a 10, can play out wide, but unbelievable amounts of ability. You know, the Football Manager players that are listening and those that are out there, you know about Charlie Musonda. You know his qualities. You know he can produce. It's just been so unfortunate with him that injuries have got in the way and almost stunned his development. But no, a top player in the making just needs to stay injury free for a sustained period of time and get that run of games going, where, as I said, he can showcase his talent and his ability, and then people will take notice regarding Charlie Musonda. So no, he's a brilliant player, and I think as well he would do well in the Belgium setup, with their kind of golden generation of players that they've got. I think he would fit in there seamlessly. But he's obviously got some top players in there to try and displace. But I think if he does get back up and running and, you know, playing consistently, there's no reason why he can't try and force his way into the Belgium setup. But Nelson, that is not a bad midfield 3. Especially with Van der Beek and Charlie Musonda in there. Rodwell's going to have to do a lot of covering. I don't know if his legs have got got it anymore, so that'll be interesting to see. So Nelson, your front 3 then, that's going to get all the service from the likes of Donny Van der Beek and Charlie Musonda. Who's going to be on the end of these through passes and the end of the creativity from those 2?
So yeah, I've gone to the front 3. I've had to make some last minute changes to my front 3, as any manager would nowadays. But I'll start with my left winger, and that is a certain player at Newcastle called Christian Atsu. Christian Atsu is a player that I completely forgot he was there at the club. I think obviously when Newcastle got promoted, he was important in that side that got promoted, but also came up and had a fair share of success, you would say, in the league as well. He got a run of games in their first season back in the league. But yeah, I think, unfortunately for him, I think since Newcastle made the signing of Alan Saint-Maximin, I think there's no way, no offense to him, that he can he can replace him. Saint-Maximin, we all know, is a different kind of baller. So I think it's really unfortunate that he's not been able to. Steve Bruce just doesn't see him as someone part of the squad. And I think for his personal benefit, I think he should try and get a move away from Newcastle this summer. I don't think he was able to get one in January. But who knows? I mean, you never wish an injury on any player, but obviously let's say that, for instance, St. Maximin is injured for a few games, he comes in, does a job. Who knows? That could revive his career at Newcastle. But we all know he has quality as well on the ball, technically gifted, I think, and is a very good wing in terms of taking people on, crosses. So yeah, I was surprised to see that he was still at Newcastle. So that's why I've put Christian Atsu on my left. So he fills in on my left side. We'll jump over to the opposite side on the right. The people that I had contesting for this spot were the likes of Shaqiri, but he's now got in the run of games at Liverpool recently. Andrei Yarmolenko was one that was a bit 50-50 at West Ham. But I've ended up going with somebody who was, again, like Wes Morgan, part of a title-winning squad recently, and that is Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain. Now, as an Arsenal fan, I love the Ox. I loved him at the time at the club. I think when he retires, he should get a career at Soccer AM or something, because he is a bundle of energy. His personality suits the football media world. But anyways, back to Ox on the pitch. We all know he was part of that winning squad with Liverpool last year. Didn't have much of a contribution. And I think since his time at Liverpool, just like at Arsenal, he has been, like you said with Musonda, I think he has suffered with a couple of injuries. I think he had one serious one at Liverpool as well. And it's crazy to think that this is now his career, especially, I'll never forget the game where Southampton played United in the FA Cup, and all the hype was on him. Everything was on him. Like, everyone's like, look at this kid, Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, like, he's the next big thing. And we know how Southampton have been able to I think Klopp identified him as somebody who could, play in that centre mid. And even that run where Liverpool made the run to the Champions League final, they lost to Madrid, I think, 4-1, or Gareth Bale scored that ridiculous overhead bicycle kick. Ox was actually part of that Champions League squad. In his very first season, I think he really made an impact. He scored a couple bangers. He scored 2 bangers against City that same season, one in the league, Champions League, one in the league as well. But obviously, we know that Ox, one of his greatest assets is that he's versatile, and that he can play in the mid, he can play on the right, on the left. So I've put Ox as my right winger. So Ox fills in on the right wing for me. And up top is somebody that I think you've forgotten as well, and that is Connor Wickham. Man like Connor Wickham. Connor Wickham, also we know, I'm trying to remember what club he plays for. Like, that's how I've forgotten, like, the fact that he's in the league. I just came across him on one of the Premier League squads and like, yep, Connor Wickham is definitely in my starting lineup. I had Wesley as well, who was contesting.
It's not me, by the way. It's not me. Just want to throw that one out there.
I had not McGrath. I had Wesley in there, as someone to contest Connor Wickham, but he's barely had a run of games in the Premier League. I think you could say in the last 2 years. We all know in his career he's suffered quite damaging injuries as well in his career. But I think if he does get a run of games, we all know he's a big target man. But at one point, I think I called him the White Lukaku, simply because he's a big target man, and he offers a blend of pace that comes with his height, which I didn't think. Sometimes when the taller the person, the slower they generally are. But he was different. He offered a quick turn of pace, and was deceptively quick as well on the ball, and offers a vicious shot when he can get one away. So I think Connor Wickham, I think he's 27. I checked 27, 28. So he's still got an opportunity to, do some damage. However, I do not know if that will be in the league any longer or if he will drop down a couple of leagues. But yeah, Connor Wickham to fill in my front three, which consists of him up top, Christian Atsu on the left, and Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain on the right. And that completes my team.
Not a bad front three, that, Nelson, I have to admit. Was there any players midfield-wise and forwards-wise that were close that were in your thinking? I know you mentioned Wesley for the striker, the number 9 shirt, but was there any others that were close?
To be fair, I think there weren't many that were close, except for I think I mentioned on the right wing, I got rid of Shaqiri and Yarmolenko. Those are the other two across the front line that I kind of consider. I also had Jose Perez of Leicester City, but I think he's made a couple appearances. I think Rodgers does use him a lot, obviously, as part of his B squad, but also, making a few substitute appearances here and there for Leicester. So, I've gone for those are the ones that kind of contested, but I'm happy with my front three of Ox, Wickham, and Atsu. Yeah,
not a bad team. Not a bad team.
So yeah.
Right. Here we go then. Here is my team. So I'm going to start in goal. There was a few contenders for the number 1 jersey, believe it or not. So I had, similarly to you, I had Scott Carson, Richard Wright 2.0, in my opinion. The fact that City sort of brought him in and then never played him and then brought him back, on loan from Derby, I think is, obviously credit to him, because he's gone from Derby, sitting on the bench at Derby to, not even playing at Man City and still getting paid for it. So, fair play to Scott Carson. I had Tom Heaton, obviously still at Aston Villa, was a really, really good goalkeeper for them in the first part of last season, before getting injured. Tom Heaton was in there. Willy Caballero at Chelsea, again, was more of a backup goalkeeper, but really, really forgotten man there. But I have gone with this particular goalkeeper because, a little bit similar to Scott Carson, was once upon a time at Derby, and has gone to the red half of Manchester and has been chilling ever since he got there, and that is Lee Grant. Properly forgotten man. I think Mourinho signed him as like a 3rd choice goalkeeper, and he's literally lived up to that name, because I don't even think he's played for Man United in the time that he's been there. Wow. So Lee Grant, again, a little bit similar to Scott Carson. Credit to him for making that move, especially with the age that he's at. You probably thought that he wouldn't get a move like that, but fair play to him for taking it and just sitting on his backside really, and not and just picking up a nice little paycheck. So real MVP goes to you, Lee Grant. Right, formation wise for me, I've gone with a 4-2-3-1.
Cool.
As well. So back 4. This was really, really tricky. I had a few players in my team, and then I had to change it because they ended up getting moves elsewhere, so they wouldn't have really qualified. So I've gone with the right back of Phil Jones, who is still at Man United, believe it or not. Due a testimonial, but I think he come out and said that nobody would turn up, so he's not going to take it. Which when somebody comes out and says something like that, it's never nice to hear, is it really?
No, it's never, no.
But yeah, Phil Jones, I know he's had a couple of injuries over the past sort of couple of years, but has not really got a look in, especially in Ole's United team. Phil Jones definitely gets in at right back and has experience of playing right back as well. So I'm not just trying to shoehorn players in, Nelson, unlike you, just to get them in my team. Like, Phil Jones actually played right back. So that there's that one. 2 centre halves. Again, had to sort of tweak this a little bit to because of sign-ins and things like that. But first centre half for me is Bjorn Engels at Aston Villa. Was a key player for them last season, made a lot of appearances, but this season has not got a look in really at all. And I think that's probably down to the form of Ezri Konsa, who has been brilliant for Villa. But again, last season had that partnership with Tyrone Mings, did Engels. I remember him actually making a mistake. I think it was for Son's goal when Tottenham beat Villa 3-2 at Villa Park. But I think, as I say, this season, down to the form of Ezri Konsa, who's been absolutely brilliant for Villa. He's started to strike up a partnership with Mings, and Engels has just found himself completely out of favour and right down the pecking order. So that's why he makes it in my team as the first centre half. The second one, so the man that's going to partner Bjorn Engels, is Maxime Le Marchand from Fulham. I've gone for a bit of balance here as well because Le Marchand is actually left-footed.
Cool.
Came to Fulham the sort of first time that they came back into the Premier League after a period away. I think he cost about £12.5 million as well. And in that team, obviously we know it was a bit of a disastrous season for Fulham that year, but was actually a consistent performer, not in the sense that he was pulling out 7 out of 10s every week, but he was always playing. And I think it might have been because he was left-footed and giving that balance. Obviously, Fulham had three or four managers that season. I think it might have been 3, but they all kind of played him anyway. So, but again, coming into this season, I don't really think he's kicked a ball for Fulham. Yeah, again, that's why he's made it, because, proper forgotten man. But yeah, interesting to see that he's really, really fallen out of favour, considering that he was a mainstay in the Fulham side. I don't know if maybe Scott Parker identified that maybe a lot of goals come down to him or due to him or whatnot. So has really kind of binned him off, to be honest, which might be a bit harsh, but football's football at the end of the day. So, and managers get paid to make these decisions. So Maxime Le Marchand is in alongside Bjorn Engels. And to complete the back four, I've gone big with this one. We're talking an ex-England international, and one that in his time was probably regarded as one of the best left backs in the league and part of one of the best fullback duos in the Premier League at one point, and that is Danny Rose.
Danny.
Instant Tottenham legend for his goal against Arsenal on his debut. Probably doesn't have to buy a pint in Tottenham ever again because of that. But I think every Spurs fan is probably of the same opinion that it's a real shame as to how it's ending for Danny Rose at Tottenham, given that he's given a lot of years of service to the football club, and now he's completely forgotten. Hasn't even got a squad number for this season, and been really, really bombed out by Mourinho. I was very, very surprised that nobody took a punt on him, perhaps in the January transfer window or even in the summer. 30 years of age, so he's still got a good couple of years left. So unfortunately for Danny Rose, it looks like he's going to just see out the remainder of his contract at Tottenham, which expires at the end of the season, and will be a free agent after that. But as I said, was an England international at one point, and his relationship with Kyle Walker as an attacking fullback duo was certainly up there at one stage in the league. It's probably a bit like Trent and Andrew Robertson at Liverpool at the moment. It was certainly Walker and Rose at one point within defensive fullbacks and those duos, as I mentioned. But yeah, Danny Rose makes it as my left back in my Forgotten Men 11.
Cool.
There was a few that did get considered. Andreas Christensen, who you had, I definitely had in my thinking. Phil Jagielka again was another one. I think I had Wes Morgan in at one point. Marcus Rojo was considered, but then got a deadline move, so I was absolutely gutted. I think I had Callum Chambers down at one point as well, but yeah, gone with those. And then there's two of Maxime Le Manchant's teammates who have been key for Fulham in the last couple of seasons, or certainly in the Championship, and that's Tim Ream and Dennis Odoi. I mean, I'm not Dennis Oddoi's biggest fan. I've seen him defend. It's not great. He makes Serge Aurier look like Cafu at times, so that kind of says it all. But yeah, I'm surprised that Tim Ream hasn't really got too much of a look in. I think he's played a lot of cup games as well. But yeah, I think Tim Ream, since going to Fulham, was almost like a mainstay. Like he was, one of the main centre halves. Again, left-footed, could play as a left-sided centre back or even left back. So I'm surprised you didn't pick him because he's got experience of playing left back. Instead of putting Christensen out there, he could have had Tim Ream.
That's true.
But yeah, those two again, pretty forgotten men. This season certainly. So yeah, that's sort of my back line. I did have Neil Taylor in there as well, who's still signed on at Aston Villa.
Oh yes, Neil Taylor. Yep.
So yeah, again, Neil Taylor I thought was a steady kind of fullback at Swansea in his time there, and then I think Swansea did a swap deal where Taylor moved to Villa, and I think it might have been, I'm trying to think of who it might have been now. Can't remember anyway, but then they went to Swansea, and I don't even think that particular move worked out. But yeah, Neil Taylor was always like a steady kind of fullback for me, and I was a bit surprised that he's not really done a lot at Villa. So yeah, he was definitely in my thinking for sure.
Not bad, Wes. Not bad. I like your back line. I'm just intrigued to see who you've got in your midfield to compete with my three. So as we move on to your midfield, tell us who you've got in your midfield.
Well, you've got the guile. I've probably got the industry in my midfield. So I've gone for Mo Besic, who's still at Everton, believe it or not.
Mo Besic, okay.
Yeah, was on loan at Sheffield United last season, and again, didn't really get much of a look in there. It has been on loan at Middlesbrough previously as well, but I think Besic is a massive hothead. He's a loose cannon, but definitely forgotten. Certainly in recent years with Everton anyway. So I think there was one particular game I remember. I think this was a good few years ago. I think it was a Saturday night game against Chelsea where the ball's come to Besic. He's tried a Cruyff turn, or he's tried a little flick, and there was absolutely nobody there. It was not long after he signed for Everton as well. And yeah, I think Chelsea went away and scored. I think the result that day was 6-3 to Chelsea. Wow. And I don't think he's been the same since then, which is a shame because he is a ball-winning midfielder. Yes, he's a hothead, but he can do a job still. But I don't think in recent seasons he's had enough game time or enough minutes to really show what he can do. So it's been a bit of a shame, really, that for Mo Besic. But I'd say a decent player, but definitely a forgotten man for sure. Hence why he's in the team. And alongside him, somebody who has experience of a couple of promotions, believe it or not, from the Championship. Not only with his current club, but was once upon a time a very key member of Wolverhampton Wanderers' squad. And that is Super Kevin McDonald. Again, real forgotten man. I think when Fulham were coming up that first time around, was instrumental in that side, alongside Stefan Johansson, who's just gone to QPR on loan again, was in my thinking for this team. But they had that three of McDonald, Johansson, and Tom Kearney with Sessegnon on the left. And Fulham were a really, really good side then. But since then, I can't remember him kicking a ball at all. So it's been really, really strange. I don't know if injuries have really hampered Kevin McDonald or the fact that Fulham have just ended up buying half a dozen centre mids because they went up and decided to spend over 100 million. But but a player that is still, I think 31. So, still got a couple of years left in him for sure. And a decent midfield player. Probably not Premier League standard, but, could probably fill a gap somewhere. But yeah, been really, really interesting to see his drop off, considering how crucial he was for Fulham in that first time around that they did get promoted. So yeah, my midfield 2, Mo Besic and Kevin McDonald.
Oh, Kevin. Okay. I was going to say, you mentioned Kevin McDonald being important in that Fulham squad when they got promoted. And obviously, like you said, one thing you pointed out was when Fulham went up, they decided to just be careless with their money and spend pretty much on a bunch of centre mids. Now, there's one centre mid that was part of that shopping spree, that transfer spending spree, that has actually recently got a move out of the club on loan back to France. But if he was still in the club, would you have considered him? His name is Jean-Michel Seri.
Yes, Jean-Michel Seri. I have to admit, Seri wasn't in my line of thinking, I have to say.
Okay.
But yeah, again, a really, really interesting one, because he was touted to, Milan. Both Milan clubs wanted him. Barcelona were linked with him before he chose Fulham. Yeah, work that one out. I think his agent needs sacking, really, because if you're getting linked to Barcelona and all of these guys and you end up at Fulham, then something's clearly not right. But yeah, a lot of hype, and then came into that Fulham side. Obviously, we know kind of what happened there, that the loads of signings and a load of players turned up. But I always felt with Seri that if he's as good as everybody's making out, then he would show it in that struggling side. Like, he would still show his qualities. But I don't think he did. And that was the real disappointment. And then I think last season was on loan out in Turkey with Galatasaray, I believe. And has come back and, just couldn't not get a look in at Fulham. So, he's now out on loan. But yeah, I have to say that Seri was not in my line of thinking for this particular team. Cool. I don't know if he was close for you, Nelson, but he was certainly not that close for me.
No, not close for me. I didn't consider him, but I recently found out last night that he had gotten a move out on loan, and I just thought I'd get your opinion on him, and if he was in your contention. Yeah.
Right then, my 3 off my main striker. I've gone big with this first one.
Okay.
Do you fancy a Premier League winner, a European Championship winner, and a World Cup winner?
Okay.
Juan Mata.
Yeah.
Coming in off the right-hand side, as he has done for the last good few years. Has won, as I mentioned there, Premier Leagues, European Championships, World Cups. Won Player of the Year in his time at Chelsea as well. And I think he won it and then was sold in the January. After that, he went to Man United under David Moyes, and has been at United ever since. But technically, I think he's a fantastic little player, Juan Mata. Loved his qualities on the ball. Has given me a few, nightmares at times in his time at Chelsea, especially. Popping up with goals and assists, through passes, you name it, he can pretty much do it. I think he was always one of them that never had any pace anyway. So him getting hoisted out on the right hand side, I think, has killed him a little bit. But a little bit similar to Van der Beek for you, in the sense that he's played in those Carabao Cup games, which have been against lesser opposition, and hasn't really got a look in too much for Ole, but is still a fantastic player and a good option to have. It's even on the bench. It's like if you're bringing somebody with that level of quality, you're gonna cause teams problems. So yeah, Juan Mata is on the right. In my number 10 position, I've gone with a teammate of your left winger Christian Atsu, and I've
Yes.
gone with Henri Saivet. Now
Ooh.
this particular player,
Wow.
I mean, he was brought in at Newcastle. I'm trying to. It might have been Steve McLaren that brought him in. That's how long ago I'm pretty sure it was Steve McLaren that brought him in. So he's been there a while, but honestly, you could probably count on one hand the amount of appearances he actually has for Newcastle. Like how he's still there, Nelson, I've got no idea. Like literally
Yeah,
no idea.
me neither.
And I was very, very surprised to see that he's still on the squad list at Newcastle, but just does not feature at all.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean it's a strange one. As we said, why is he still there? Basically, he's literally robbing a living and nicking a wage at the minute. So yeah, but I think Newcastle's problem might be they can't shift him and get him out and get him off the wage bill. But yeah, I'd love to go on and try and justify, you know, Saivet's qualities or anything like that. But as I say, with probably a handful of games over his period, I know he's had a couple of loans in there as well. But yeah, I've not even seen anything that would make me go, well, he's a good player or he's this or he's that. He's just been there. You know, his boots must be collecting dust or cobwebs or something in the boot room because they're never used or anything like that. So yeah, Henri Saivet is in the number 10 position. Moving on to left wing. Now, this particular player was brought to England by Marco Silva, and that is Kamil Grosicki. So Marco Silva brought him in his time at Hull and did really, really well. I think everybody liked Marco Silva when he was at Hull, you know, for the way that they played. I just think that unfortunately they just ran out of games in the end. Hull and Marco Silva couldn't quite keep them in the league. But Grosicki was actually a decent player and did quite well. And there was, you know, when Hull went down, you would think that he would be one that would move on, but he did stay around for a little while, and it was only until fairly recently, I think it might have been even just up to last season, that he left last January and made the move to West Brom. Now his West Brom career has not gone to plan at all. Was brought in and again I think has barely kicked a ball. Obviously had that time in the Championship. They then got promoted, and there was a move lined up for him to go to Nottingham Forest in the summer window. That didn't materialise from the domestic window. I think that was a loan deal. Didn't happen, and has just been sat at West Brom ever since. I think you know, I think there might have been another move that he tried to get which failed, so he's been a bit unlucky with that. But yeah, Grosicki is a player that has definitely been forgotten about, and like I say, especially when he was at Hull, he was a decent player. So yeah, he gets the left wing spot in there for my team.
Nice. I'll be honest, like I think you're in terms of, obviously the point of this is to pick forgotten men, and I think you've done a very, very good job in picking men that when you brought their names up, I was like, him? Okay, like he is definitely someone that I've forgotten. So yeah, I think, yeah, like you said, my midfield has a bit of guile, but yours has a bit of industry. So I like yours. Any that you considered in that midfield that didn't make it?
There was quite a few, I'm not going to lie, but they all ended up either getting back in the team or getting moves. So Atsu was one, Shaqiri, Oxlade-Chamberlain. Those were their three names that really, really sort of stand out for me in terms of, you know, in my thinking. But yeah, I think that's pretty much all I can. I think Hourihane at Villa was one, and having watched Swansea Norwich on Friday, what a signing he's going to be for Swansea, because he was excellent that night. and he was pulling strings left, right, and centre. Again, was crucial to Villa. From coming up from the Championship, and then even last year in the Premier League, a real good technician, but has just found himself dislodged by the fact that Villa have now got Douglas Luiz, Marvelous Nakamba, Ross Barkley, John McGinn, players like that. So he's just found himself out of the Villa, the Villa team. Henry Lansbury was also in there, a player that you mentioned last week with the transfer window. He was definitely there.
Yes, I did
as well. So yeah, there was definitely a few in there, but I had to make a few tweaks late on to the team. That is for sure.
Cool. So we now move forward to your lone striker. Who have you got in there to challenge Connor Wickham to bang in the goals for your Forgotten Men side?
I don't think I'm going to get on that kind of forgotten level.
Okay.
Because I think Connor Wickham was, a fantastic addition for you, because he burst onto the scene at Ipswich and everybody thought, here we go. He was one of the next big things. Went to Palace and it was a bit of a strange move because, again, the bigger clubs in the Premier League were looking at him. He's been so unlucky with injuries. No, he didn't go to Palace, sorry, he went to Sunderland. I think then went to Palace, but yeah, it was one of those where once Sunderland had bought him, it was like, oh blimey, they've ended up getting this like young hot protege. Been so unlucky with injuries, and has had loads and loads of loan moves since. But yeah, anyway, you get Connor Wickham, and I've got this young fella who, in his time at his club, Southampton, has scored some decent goals. But I think there's always probably going to be a backup option for somebody. Scored a brilliant goal against Chelsea last season on Boxing Day. And that is Michael Obafemi.
Okay.
Obafemi has got a very decent build about him. He's quite stocky. He's got a bit of pace as well. But I just think he's injured at the moment. So, probably won't be able to play anyway, which was really, really unfortunate. I think there was a loan move in place for him to go to Swansea, and then he picked up his injury, which was unfortunate for him. But, I think when I have seen him, I've been fairly impressed. Like, he looks lively, looks like he can do a little bit, fairly decent for a goal as well. But yeah, it's been really, really forgotten. He would kind of have a little spell in the Southampton team, or, would come off the bench, and then all of a sudden you wouldn't see him for God knows how long. And then it was like, oh, Obafemi's on the bench. So yeah, he's the man that I've gone with as my number 9. But I did have a few others that were in consideration. None other than Islam Slimani was one. Unfortunately, he ended up getting a move to Lyon. Shane Long, Obafemi's teammate, but then he decided to get a day move to Bournemouth, so that really killed me as well. So yeah, there was a couple of others, but I went with Obafemi for that reason, that he would come into the team or come off the bench, have a half decent game, but then you wouldn't see him for a good sustained period of time and stuff. It's just unfortunate now that he is injured. Also in contention is Hal Robson-Kanu.
Yes.
Everybody remembers him from the Euros when he sent half of Belgium's team back to Belgium with that Cruyff turn and slotted it past Thibaut Courtois. But Hal Robson-Kanu was another one, but I just went with Obafemi. But those two were, Robson-Kanu and Obafemi were very much neck and neck. But yeah, Obafemi just tipped him for that particular spot. You happy with that team, Nels?
Yeah, I think that would be a really good match. I think one thing we need to do is that do like a special FIFA episode or something where all the 11s that we've done in terms of underrated, overrated for the next side, put them in one squad and then just let them have a dig at one another. So no, I'm really happy with. I like the XI, but I think one day we've got to get them into like a FIFA game or something, or sim and match. That way we know whose squad actually comes out on top. But I like it, XI. So yeah, I think that completes both of our teams.
It does indeed.
Today.
It does indeed. Guys, thank you ever so much for listening and watching. We hope you enjoyed it. I know that me and Nelson did as well, and that one was probably the toughest out of the 11s that we have done. You know, as we mentioned with the January transfer window, it did kill us slightly with some selections. So yeah, and if you do want us to do that FIFA game that Nelson was alluding to there, please let us know. We'd love to hear from you, and let us know your thoughts as well on our particular teams, and who you think, if they were to come up head to head, who you think would win. Would it be Team Nelson or would it be Team Wes? So that concludes it's all for today. Nelson, thank you once again for coming on. Don't forget, subscribe to the YouTube channel, hit the notification bell so you know every time that we post. Follow us on all social media platforms: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. WM32 Football for those. The online shop, live and direct, coming through like AJ Tracy. So you can cop your WM32 Football merchandise from the website www.wm32football.com/shop for that. And we hope that you guys all stay safe and stay healthy, both physically and mentally. And we hope to see you really, really soon. Nelson, thank you once again.
Thank you.